So with that, we will open the floor to the managers and start our discussion. I want this to be interactive. If anyone has questions, feel free to write those questions in the chat and we will answer those as we go along. So to start with, I'll start with Bill, as he's the president-elect and he is the board liaison for the Young Professionals Committee. What are the communication strategies and best practices that you see with your most successful vendors that you work with?
Well, thanks for inviting me to participate as a panelist and for this workshop. I think a combination of emails and phone calls and short and sweet conversations are the best. As most of you know, your customers are inundating you with emails and phone calls, the same as our board members, our managers, and with our homeowners. And so short and sweet conversations are best. Emails work best for me. I think little drip emails, sending information out about your company to put it in front of me as a reminder to make sure that I'm putting you in front of our board of directors. And I just want to say this first, that, in my young career as a manager, I have heard that managers have their favorites, their vendors, they only recommend certain vendors, and I don't think that's true on our case, that we welcome to put vendors in front of our boards of directors, especially because we don't, as a new company ourselves, we're not familiar with all the vendors that are in the area that provide services. There may be a new vendor that comes up that provides a great service, whether it be landscaping, insurance, whatever the painting, whatever the case may be. So the more vendors that we have that we pre-qualify to be people that that are in the business and have vetted, it gives the boards of directors more power to choose the service provider that best benefits them and their community. So I think having, starting off with being involved in CAI for one, I will say that is the first set of business partner service providers that I go to. And then meeting them at networking events like the chapter breakfast. I know that's been a little bit difficult now, but just soft little short, sweet emails and phone calls to start introducing yourself and how you as a service provider, business partner, can help not only our company, but can also help our boards of directors service their members.
And Roberta, David, and Jean, feel free to capitalize on what Bill's saying. I want this to be conversational, so any additional thoughts and insight that you guys have, feel free to jump in and add to it.
I do agree with Bill that my go-to list of vendors starts with CAI. I'm open to other vendors, but I feel that CAI really vets all of the vendors regardless of the discipline. And new vendors, although I'm long in the tooth in this business, I have many vendors. It's not a one-stop shop for me. And to introduce a new vendor to my boards in a competitive bidding process is ideal for me. It allows me to know how this new vendor is going to handle a board presentation, handle a written presentation to me, and allow me to diversify my resources. I agree. Bill said it best and said it all. I agree that a short, sweet email is beneficial, particularly at this time, but I also depend upon the social contact. I want to meet someone face to face, eye to eye, get the measure of the company, their experience with the company, and what they can bring that distinguishes them to a board and to me as being a viable, reputable company.
Hey, so if I could just jump in again, I received a private chat asking me to explain how I pre-qualify a vendor. And I did kind of brush over that. So let me just talk about that. For one, there's nothing worse, and I'm sure the other managers on here will agree with me that, you know, part of our responsibility is to make sure that not only are the vendors registered with the state as a licensed company, but we also need to make sure that they have all of the insurance requirements that your board requests. So one of the things that is a struggle for our company dealing with vendors is making sure that they have workers' comp and explaining to the vendor what workers' comp means. It doesn't mean that if you are exempt, your little handyman that you bring out on the job site to help you is covered. I mean, because we all know that's not the case. And so when I say pre-qualify, for one, I want to find out how long they've been in business. I would like to talk and find out who some of their clients have been that they're servicing or have serviced. And then I want to make sure they get all of their insurance paperwork first, because the last thing I want to do is invest my time to present them to the board and then find out when they get their insurance that they don't have the proper coverage that the board has. And so, David, that's how I meant by you know, pre-qualifying a vendor.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, that was a question I wanted to ask, because we do pre-qualify, and the workers' comp is the most difficult one, because if it is a one or a two-man company, they can often be exempt. And the association that I'm with actually carries workers' compensation insurance just to cover that. It's not a horrendous cost. It's around $800 a year. $800 is $800. I know it's, you know, we like to save money where we can, but I feel that's a good investment for the association, because workers' comp claims can go on for years. And it's something that, you know, you need to try your best to make sure they are covered with. But Bill is exactly right. I agree with Roberta. I agree with Bill. Short and sweet, tell us what you know. And my theory has always been as well that, you know, if you're looking for someone to do AC work, painting work, contracting work, they're the experts, you're not. Our job as a manager is to find someone capable of doing the job, and then we put them in front of the board and they explain why they're the company for the job. And I also agree with Roberta that I go further afield. I love CAI. That book is a Bible. I go to that all the time. I talk to other managers. Who have you had done this? How was your experience with them? Did they do a good job? And for the benefit of the business partners, I would say it's not only how you present yourself, but it's also how you present yourself if there's a problem. Because you can be the best company in the world and doing a fantastic job. You hit a roadblock and all of a sudden there's no one to talk to, or the responses are subpar. You can't get a resolution to an issue. So it needs to go all the way through, from the minute you walk in the door to when the job's finished and the association hands you a check and says, thank you very much. So it's a full service is what we're all looking for. You know, our life is to make our owner's life easy. As a business partner, your job is to make our life easy. And by that, you do a good job. So we can put our hand up and say, ABC Company did a fantastic job. And we'll do that all day long.
Great. AMI, we spent years at AMI tracking down certificates and vetting insurance certificates for vendors. And in the past 3 years, AMI signed a contract with Vive, vendor verification company, and it's all handled remotely, so that if a vendor cancels their insurance, and experience tells us that a person may get insurance to cover a job, and the minute they're awarded the job, that insurance, particularly workers' comp, is canceled and the association is left vulnerable. This program is notified and does a fantastic job. And I'm sure that Bill and David and Jeannie do a wonderful job, but it takes the burden off me to vet each and every vendor and make sure that they are currently insured. That's a huge exposure. And after many years, I finally talked my last HOA into carrying, if any, workers' comp policy, but it took the presentation of the agent at a board meeting to convince them with a few horror stories, but they would not, they wanted it from the agent rather than from me. he said the exact same things that I did, but carried more weight, and they are now properly covered.
That's absolutely great, Roberta. I understand, especially in the portfolio situation, being on both ends, that sounds awesome that you don't have to worry about the individuals to try to track those down so that you have the sourcing of the cancellations all in one place. But I agree with everyone about the emails. I do like a phone call. And I just wanted to say, so some of the questions were, how to effectively be a presence without being a pest. And I just jotted some notes, and to me, some news. Tell me something that I don't know. What have you, what have you just found out that worked great? Whether it was new plumbing technology, maybe it was some type of new pesticide or fertilizer that helped with the landscape, and then give us a success story. And that just is a quick email to say, hey, did you know? Have you found out? One of the other questions was, the scheduling, creating an effective schedule. If something could be done, just like we know the first Wednesday of the month is CAI, perhaps plumbers can say, hey, we're going to do something on the first Thursday of the month, or offer a 1-hour CE class. Because if I have a calendar to look at and to choose and pick from, that's going to be definitely helpful for me as far as, efficiency and getting what I need as a manager. And the the business partners are definitely who I look to provide some of that information. You guys know. Point of contact, definitely the manager in my case as an on-site. Last thing you want to do is the board member to call you and go, did you know? That's not a good thing to be in a position of when they call you and know before. And potentially that's going to happen if there's something that you can't attend where board members are invited to, and rightly so. But the manager then, in my situation, I have the information of how I'm disseminating that. Is there a committee chairperson that wants to look at that first before it goes to the committee, before it then goes to the board? And I really don't know how you can read the manager's mind. I do like the email. I do like a phone call. I don't consider anybody a pest. And I think all of us have a folder of business partners to choose from, so that, yes, I do go to CAI first.
So I want to add to what Jeannie just said, and that is those emails that come out, or a quick phone call that says, did you know, or do you know? Listen, I try to convince my wife that I know it all, and she reminds me on a daily basis that I don't, and that I would absolutely love to have tidbits of information from potential business partners, ones that do work for some of our associations, as to new trends in the marketplace, new ways of doing things. Because, listen, I don't know the first thing about painting. I don't. Pam's on this call. Pam can tell me all there is to know about painting, but I can't. I need to continue to learn about all of these things, so that when I bring it up to the board, or I can say, hey, do you know that CPR said this? Or do you know that Sean Kennedy said this from?
Is he frozen?
I think so.
I was cutting out a little bit.
He's going to burst out in song any minute now because he's frozen. So, sorry.
I see many of the business partners online today that I have depended upon over the years, and their method of communication has helped me to know where I am in the process of not only information, but RFPs and work in progress. And until we start walking on water, each and every one of us will step into a puddle that we don't want to step in. It's how we and our vendors handle those problems, as I think Bill said, maybe David iterated as well. But it's the response. I'm on it. Who should I contact? What should I do when you're in the process of a paint job or concrete restoration, roadways? But that communication when there's a problem, not if there's a problem. I've had very few jobs run without a single problem over the years, but it's what they do. And do I, as you say, you hire someone and a problem arises and there's no one to be found. So That's critical. We're on it. I know that it's going to be handled. I get feedback from the board members because every single one of the vendors that I have used will contact the owner, will contact the board, and works in conjunction to resolve an issue.
So I'll jump in here. So I know a question that a lot of the folks on here today probably have. Many of us are in business development, in a production type role. What is the best way, most professional way to approach a manager that you may not have a great relationship with, that you may not know very well, to open up that dialogue about opportunities for their business?
I would say one of the things that I wrote down too is, you all know we talk to one another. So if you've got a successful relationship with a particular manager, you might want to ask that manager to say, hey, can you reach out to X or so-and-so? Because I know we're all willing to help one another. And I'll be the first one to say that I will make a phone call and say, have you used, or, you know, what was your experience with? So I think you need to use our, I don't want to say internal, but it's something that is done. All the managers, I'm calling colleagues all the time. I need some feedback. How is this working?
I agree with Jeannie. Yeah. I think that an introduction from another trusted colleague that has had a successful relationship is the best way to do it. Person to person. I really depend upon the person to person, and I know it's difficult. It's been difficult, but I've managed to keep those contacts and meet outside a safe distance so that you can make the introduction, share some information, and start to establish that relationship. It's all about establishing a relationship. It doesn't have to be over a lavish lunch. It can be, let's stand outside your office and just have a chat. I met with an engineer recently. I'm on the ambassadors committee, and a new engineer brought on by Patricia Stabler came to my office. We stood outside, we swapped information. When I need him, I know how to reach him. So that, as a portfolio manager, there are days when I envy those on site that they have time to do what David and Jeannie do, aside from working with the board. But it's very difficult for me to squeeze out some time to meet someone. But establishing those personal relationships, to me, is critical.
Totally agree. And that is very important. And we do get asked a lot of questions. I mean, we're all in different networks of emails, and we very often get questions that, you know, Jeannie will send me a question, have you used so-and-so plumber, or I'm looking for a roofer, and they come from all over. And we like to help people, but we also have to be cautious, because if something goes wrong on a job, and it was me that told you to use ABC company, guess who's in the mire now? So yeah, we're happy to recommend people, but it has to be people that we trust. And that is, as Roberta just said, that is built up over time. But I like Jeannie's idea, you know, call other managers. Have you heard from so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? Have you tried them? Did they do a good job for you? Because on-site managers is a great job. I love it. I've now been here close to 12 years, but you're also in the firing line. And I've got 95 owners. I've got a lot less than a lot of other people. But I always tell people, I've got 96 bosses. I've got 95 here and 1 at home. So you have to be careful what you're saying. You be careful who you're recommending, and you have to be comfortable recommending people. And it's all down to service. And we've dealt with companies for years here that have always been there. I know I can send them an email. I know I can call them, and I'll get a good response. That's not to say I don't try other people, because if we're doing a large project, large is subjective. I mean, it might be $1,000 project, it might be a $300,000 project, but I always like to get other people involved. And I'll call people from CAI book, I'll call people from outside the network, get them to come and talk to me, so I'm getting a good comparison. Because there's nothing worse than getting someone in to give you a bid, and you get 3 companies come in and they're within $50 of each other. You know, that's just what's going on here. So I do involve other people. I do like using different people, but I do rely on the network that we've established over the years here. And communication is always the key. You know, it's a difficult, I've been on both sides. I've been in sales. I was in sales for a long time in England, and now on the other side of the desk. It's a difficult balance, because you don't want to be so connected that you're annoying people, but you also need to be connected enough to know, for them to know you're there if they need you. And that, I agree, that's a difficult balance to sort out. And a good salesperson will work that out. You know, Roberta might be happy if I talk to her every 6 weeks. Jeannie might want me to talk to her every 2 weeks, but that's a skill you gain in sales as well. So there's lots to it. And big thing I would say is don't be annoyed at us if we don't get straight back to you. We're not being rude. We're not ignoring you. Maybe we don't have a need. While we're talking, I've just had 3 emails from carpet cleaning companies. Do I need my carpets cleaned? So
I do.
You
I
do.
need my carpets
I'll pass them
cleaned.
on to you. Then you can. We've used them. They're great people. You know, and maybe that's the jog I need. Oh, I do need to do the 11th floor. Thanks, guys. I'll get back to you. But you know, it's fun. I enjoy what I do. I very much enjoy what I do. And we try and involve as many people we can and give people a break, particularly new companies. If they're coming on board and they've got a good service and good reputation, then let's have a go with them as well. Let's try and share the wealth a bit. So that would be my comment.
And I think it's a good practice for service providers and business partners that are trying to develop a relationship with a manager or a board of directors, if you're going directly to them, and to realize that the sales cycle is not 30 days. I mean, it can take months and years before, let's use a restoration company. I mean, God forbid that, something happens where we need someone to come out and do something like that. We never want that to happen, but it's still, you have to understand how long it may take. I mean, Matt from Reserve Advisors has been on me for like 3 years. And although he's had provided an opportunity to submit quotes, we just now were, a couple of boards have decided to go with him. And so that was a long sales cycle, but Matt was always there. I would get a little email that would come out occasionally from him. And so those are the type of, let me just say this. Some of the best networkers in CAI, I mean the best, have never, ever asked me for a sale. Now, I know that's what all of your jobs are, is to ask and build a relationship to get a potential sale. Some of the best ones, you guys all know who they are. All know who they are, the best networkers. They just don't ask. But you know what they do? They are there at almost every event. Everybody knows who they are. They network constantly. They are just there available in case a manager needs something, or a homeowner, board member needs something from them. They are ready to go. And so I think that if you could look at how to network within CAI, that's a whole different project or a program, but making yourself available to us when something happens is a big, huge plus to us.
Yeah, if I may add a comment to that, Bill, I totally agree with the timing of it. I mean, we did solar, we replaced our solar heating for the pool. That was a 14-month project from start to finish. We renewed our entry system, our fob entry system. That was a 2.5-year project. And I know one company they came in strong. They did a really good job on the presentation, very professional, but then they got annoyed with me because I couldn't make a decision. And they actually went away with their tail between the legs because they weren't prepared to wait. The thing that, and forgive me, I'm not being rude and I don't want to be rude, but the thing people need to understand is that the managers are not making the decision. They're guiding the board. They're putting information in front of the board so they can make a qualified business decision. And bugging the manager and getting annoyed with the manager because the board has not made a decision will not make you any friends. And we try and be nice, and I try and help people. As I say, I've been on both sides of the table. I know it's a difficult job, but getting impatient doesn't help because it's not us. We don't make the final decision. Our job is to gather information, put qualified people in front of the board and let them just make a decision, hopefully with our guidance. So give us a little bit of leeway on that bit. That's what I would ask.
So I wanted to comment. Matt from Reserve Advisor sent out a little chat asking about drip emails and how often to be contacted. And I just want to share a quick story. Mike Miller from Florida Paints is on here. And in the beginning, when I first met him, I told him that I potentially had 2 properties that used Florida Paints and that they were going to be needing a new spec book. And so I told him that, and it was during the annual meeting season and during COVID. And so the last thing I was thinking about was meeting with him on site to go over the buildings that are being painted. That was absolutely the farthest thing from my mind. But he would call like literally just once a week and send an email occasionally to gently nudge a reminder to me that, hey, look, you asked me to meet with you on site in a very nice way. Hey, look, let's schedule a time what's convenient. So we actually made an appointment that was 2.5 weeks out, and we both met on site. It was great. I can't verbalize that any differently or how that may work for your business to interact with a manager, but that worked perfectly for me because he, as a team member, as I consider all of our business partners and service providers to be, was helping me remember that I needed to meet with him so I could get a paint spec book. And so I think we all need to work together, especially the business partners with a portfolio of managers, especially because we're dealing with, 1,000 homeowners in our portfolio or even more. And so we need those helpful reminders from time to time.
I would also ask that if a service provider is contacted by a board member, please keep the manager in the loop. The
Sure.
last thing a manager wants to be is blindsided with certainly qualified vendors coming to the table, but without a clue. You're duplicating effort. And if you can just send a quick email, leave a voicemail, I'm in meetings this time of year, hours and hours of every day. And just so that you are not blindsided at a board meeting, oh, I got this quote from so-and-so, great price, well recommended, let's go with it. And I'm sitting there or on the phone, not knowing who this person is, not having the opportunity to vet that person, put them through our insurance review process, and feel comfortable that the board is making a good decision. So please keep us in the loop.
So I just received a chat from Sean Kennedy, and one of the things let me just read his question. I think in case some of you have not seen it, his question was to the property managers, do you find it challenging to remain objective when it comes to learning about a new vendor and comparing it to a long-standing vendor? And from my take, as you all, as Sixto said, we started in 2014 with literally no experience in the industry, never working in this industry. And if I didn't keep an open mind to new vendors in the marketplace or vendors that I haven't worked with, I would be somewhat hypocritical because I was once a new vendor in this marketplace, a service provider for boards. And so just because a company started 5 minutes ago doesn't mean that they're not qualified to provide a service to our boards and to our company. And so I think that's really important to know. And I think sometimes it's easier, I have to be honest and say sometimes it's easier to call XYZ company because I just know they're going to come out and do that particular work that I need. And I think we're all probably guilty of that. But I think when new contracts come up, at least all the boards that I work for, they all ask for updated pricing. So I call vendors, business partners, look, you didn't get the contract last time, but the board would like another quote. They're reviewing this. So I just go out to see other vendors because there could be a diamond in the rough, so to speak, that a new vendor that comes in, it may save the association money. It may cost the association more money, but the service that they're providing is better than the service that they're getting. So Sean, to your point, I know it's easy for us to just constantly go back to the same ones, but I think we would be doing ourselves a disservice if we weren't putting vendors in front of the board of directors so that they can make a quality decision on their next service contract.
I also see several vendors in the audience that I can't use their services. Elevators are one, Sean, and Lori Schrader. I don't have any new construction, but my portfolio may change on a dime. And it's nice to know those people. And Matt, I have tried to convince my boards to have reserve studies. I can't tell you how much breath I have spent trying to sell a reserve study on deaf ears, I might add. But just knowing you're out there when my portfolio changes on a dime, I know you're there. And it doesn't take, I don't consider a drip email annoying. It's like, gee, thanks. I can't use your services right now, but it's nice to know you're there. So I value each and every one of you, whether I have a new construction, need elevator reconstruction, but I thank you for being there is what I guess I'm trying to say.
So there was another question from Mackenzie Swagger. She's asked, what is a good approach to ask a manager that they don't know or that you don't know them out to an outing, especially during COVID, just so you could formally introduce yourself. So I've talked a lot. I don't know if David and Jeannie want to, answer that question and see how they would prefer something like that to be handled.
I'm always willing to meet new vendors. I like meeting new vendors. I like knowing what people do, what they've done, and who they're working with. And in actual fact, it may be a bit odd, but I don't need, again, I'm trying not to be rude here. I don't need to be taken out for lunch or given a gift certificate or something like that to talk to someone. I'm quite happy to meet you in the front lobby, or as Roberta said, meet you outside in the front portico, tell me who you are, what you do, and if I can help you and use you and you can help me, because it's a two-way street, then we'll do it. And sometimes I feel guilty that someone wants to take me for lunch. I know why we're doing it, and you don't need to. If it's a good company and it's a service I can use and the service the association needs, then we'll use you. It's as simple as that. So just reach out. Again, I agree with Roberta. I might not be able to use you this month. The people with the solar heating, I mean, they were contracting me probably for years. And I didn't need solar heating, and then we did. And it was a 14-month project. So had they not, it might not have worked out for them. It did work out very well, and they were very patient, and I appreciate that. I know other managers would as well. So we don't need to be wined and dined. We just need to have good service and good people to deal with.
Exactly. I just saw a question from Krista about newsletters and emails and all of that. Because I have 14 associations and 14 different boards, every single publication I receive, I will forward an announcement. I will forward to my board members as an FYI, with a caveat that if you're not interested, hit delete. But I'm always in communication with my boards with up to the date, up to the minute information, particularly during the storm season. I had several newsletters from insurance companies. I shared it with all my boards, whether that was their agent or not. So newsletters are very valuable to me. The trade publications are very valuable to me. And your presentations, if I can use them in electronic form, I will make my boards aware that you are out there.
I do that too, Roberta. I definitely, when we get law reviews, when we get something from any type of information that I think my board would benefit, or a particular board or two that's experiencing that topic, I will forward that to those group of board members so they can have that information. And I wanted to talk just for Mackenzie, I just want to talk about the lunch and what David had mentioned. Some of us, I'm sure I speak for most of the managers, if not all, that stopping our day to go have lunch is it takes so much out of our day to do that. It just does. Most of the time my lunch is at my desk because we're just so busy, especially during certain times of the year. But like David said, I don't need to have lunch to put you in front of a board. If I feel that your company can provide a service to the board, I honestly could care less about it. I know there may be people out there that want to have that connection. I think you as a business development manager for your respective companies need to determine which managers you may want to do that to. But for me, like David said, David, I've never thought about what you just said, and that is meet me in the lobby for 5 minutes. I mean, that's fantastic because a lunch can take at least an hour, hour and a half out of your day, of which none of us really have. So a 5-minute meeting, a prearranged scheduled meeting for 5 minutes, whether it's on a job site somewhere, on the property, at the office, wherever it may be, for 5 or 10 minutes to meet, I think that could do wonders in helping you guys develop relationships with managers and management companies.
I would also suggest that the new managers and the younger managers, I always feel strange being on a young professionals platform, but I am always available to help, to chat, to recommend, to work with different vendors and managers who are saying, what do I do? Have you seen this problem? There are always, I will never say I've seen everything because none of us has seen everything. There's always some new critter crawling out from under that rock that you have to deal with. So give me a call, shoot me an email, vendors and managers alike. Mentorship is very important to me.
I have a question from Charlotte in the chat as well. Whenever managers do receive information from vendors and business partners, what's a good amount of information to receive, whether it be 1 to 2 paragraphs, maybe a flyer, a one-pager? What's too much, and what would you consider too little?
I'll speak for me. I think the attention span of every manager or board is going to differ. For me, when I first started talking the short and sweet, I think a paragraph or two. If I open up an email and I have pages, of scrolling and paragraphs to read, that's just hard for me to read. So, and I still forward them, but it's hard for me to read that. So I think every person is different, but I think shorter emails and newsletters where maybe there's a bullet head point that talks about what that next paragraph is going to state, that's probably a more effective way, I would think, at least for me, how my brain works, is for that. I want to know what I'm going to read before I read it to see if I even need to read it. So if a board or a manager has more information that they want to give or have questions about the little blurb that you sent, I think the managers would reach out. I know I would reach out if I had something that I needed to have for one of my associations that you may be providing. I just want to read a little and then take the liberty myself to ask you for follow-up questions. And I think that's, for me, that works. I don't know how that works for everyone else, but
I go for a bullet point listing. And then, as you say, Bill, you can expand the questions. But if I prefer to deliver information in a bullet point format, simply because you can cover a lot of territory in one page. But a bullet point to me is like, I can read that quickly, absorb it quickly, and know where to go from there. Like Bill said, if it pertains to a particular group, send it to that group. If it's general information, blanket your boards. You're communicating with them. They value that, even though they may not read every bit of it.
Totally agree. That's just exactly what I was going to say. Bullet points with a sentence or two, and then further information available if you need it. Because that's the sort of thing that will, agree everything Bill and Roberta said.
Looks like there's nothing new under the sun among us, is there?
So
I do want to jump in real quick. I got a message from Jeannie Michella. She was one of our 4 panelists this morning. She had a bit of a family emergency, so she had to jump off the call. She wanted to thank everyone for sitting in this morning, but she is unavailable for the rest of the meeting. So I don't think that she's just being quiet. She actually has some important business to attend to. So we're still in excellent hands with Roberta, David, and Bill moving forward.
Just let her know if she needs anything, we can help her. And I hope everything's okay. That's a disturbing message. So I hope she's okay. I will say, just as an aside, Roberta and I have known each other for a very long time. Roberta was the first property manager I worked with in the early 90s, and she was a wonderful lady then, and she's a wonderful lady now, and she was an inspiration for me to become in property management. In fact, I will say, the prior manager I worked with before Roberta took over, they had mentioned about me becoming a condo manager. And forgive my language, my answer at that point was, oh, hell no, not in a million years. But I worked with Roberta, and she had a much different attitude, as you've seen. You know, help everybody find out, do the best you can, and share information. That's a wonderful.
Thank you, David. I knew you wouldn't stay where we met very long. You had far too much potential, which is clearly exhibited among my colleagues.
Thank you very much.
Actually, the whole group is really impressive. I'm always in awe when I meet any one of you or any of the colleagues, and it's humbling to me that I know so little. So everybody at CAI is very sharing and forthcoming. So don't anybody hesitate to ask.
Completely agree. Absolutely. You can ask anybody anything. As Sixto said at the start, ask me a question. If I don't know the answer, I'm pretty sure I can find someone who does. And it can be anything and everything, and we'll find it for you.
I would like to attest to the fact that I have personally contacted Roberta. Sometimes it would be once a week. Have you had this come up in a referral for a vendor? Because that was my business, was referring different vendors. And she's, you know, I can't even tell you the friendship that we've had through the years and how we've done that. But also David Daly, you know, you came in later. You know, I've been in for a long time with vendor and manager relationships, and you've been insurmountable also. I mean, you know, I've been very lucky to have you guys in my life. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you as well. And that's another prime example. If you've got a question, there's so many people you can ask questions of. And I've called Pam and asked questions, all sorts of people, and they're always there. They're always there. It's a brilliant organization. I've got fire alarm tests going on behind me. Can you hear them?
Yes.
That's so much fun. So much fun. But anyway.
So we have about 12 minutes left in the session, and I want to end it on this topic here because I know this is a hot button for a lot of the young professionals. What would, for the managers, your best piece of advice be to the younger folks that are a part of CAI that maybe, you know, not even been a part of the community for a year or maybe, you know, less than 5 years? What can they do to compete and separate themselves within their industry from their competitors that have been a part of CAI for 30, you know, 25, 30 years, have served on the board in the past, have been past board presidents? What can they do? You know, you can't out relationship a relationship, and things like that take time. But what would be your best piece of advice for them to get the ball rolling and to be able to start gaining some ground with their business endeavors?
Be patient, be present.
I think Roberta said it best. I was going to say patient and making yourself available. You have to make yourself available to everyone at any time. And so I think, I mean, you can't say anything else than what Roberta just said. I think that's it. So
I would totally agree. First word I thought of was patience. You know, we can't make things change overnight. We were always willing to listen to people and get their opinion and get their advice, but patience is the big thing. Be patient, understand that from our position, you know, we're not buying for ourselves, we're not getting services for ourselves, we will move it along to the best of our ability, but patience is the big thing, and understanding that, you know, and avoiding people and not talking to them, not calling them because we didn't get you an answer within 3 months. That's not a deliberate act. You know, if you're not going to get the contract, I try and tell you as quickly as possible. And if possible, I'll explain why. Because as I keep saying, I've been on the other side of the fence, and you know, relationships are strange. I remember in England 1,000 years ago, just after they stopped inventing dirt, I was involved with a huge contract for a local authority. And to me, it would have been my biggest contract ever had I got the sale. And I just wasn't getting anywhere. And I went to the guy I was dealing with and asked him, what's the problem? As far as I can see, the product is right. It will do what you want it to do. Is it me? And he said, yes, it's you. I don't like you. And I said, okay, so if I find somebody else to come and talk to you, will you still deal with my company? Because it's a good company. And he said, yes. So I got another colleague to go and talk to it. The deal was closed and we did the business. You don't always get on with everybody you meet. We try hard, but sometimes it doesn't work. So don't be offended if we don't get back to you within 5 minutes. Many, many, many times, it's not a deliberate act. It's just the situation we're in. So patience is very important.
And managers and board members need to remember that today's biggest PIA is tomorrow's board president. So treat everybody with a gentle, kind hand. That is my advice. I have a new assistant, and that's today's homeowner that is really making your life miserable will make it a point to become the president and make your life a living hell. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Right. I think, let me just say, before I want to say, because I don't want anybody to drop off, that you guys can get my contact information from Scott, or just look it up on the directory. And if any of you want to reach out and just have a quick meeting or quick phone call, I'll make myself available. Maybe we can schedule something after the first of the year, but you can get my information from Scott or from the directory membership, from the website and or the app. So I know Scott may mention that later, but the app is also there. So, but Roberta, to all, I have learned that the hard way, Roberta. I literally have learned that the hard way, and it's very hard to remain patient with those homeowners that are not drip emails, but bombarding you with and sometimes they can feel the edge in some of my responses. And so I have learned that the hard way, and it's a very difficult task, but I think that would be the same from you on this call to reaching out to a manager, to not getting a response right away. I think it's about the same, about, you know, maintaining that composure and patience and making yourself available. I guess that's just the best way to say it. So.
Can I just turn the tables for a quick minute? There's 41 people on this Zoom meeting, which is very impressive. Thank you to Scott and everybody involved in organizing it. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask us? Because we've got 7 minutes left.
Yeah, great.
Now, in a board meeting, we say hearing none, we'll adjourn.
That's right.
A standing motion.
Yes, there you go. All right, anything to finish off with, because this has been great, and thank you. And I'm going to reiterate what Roberta said a few minutes ago. Every time I get involved with these and I listen to people like Bill talk and Roberta talk and Jeannie and Sixto, I always think these people are so smart. You know, you say the right things, you know the right things to do, you've got great direction, you know, your compass is always in the right direction. I think that's wonderful. And I'm very grateful to be exposed to all these people and learn from them. So you can't beat it. So thank you very much to everybody.
So Charlotte just asked a question. She was rapid fire, top 3 tips from each of you. So I'm just going to kind of summarize what we talked about. 1 is be patient. 2 is make yourself available. And 3 is to help educate us as managers to provide service, or what you can provide to help our boards and our members that we serve.
One more to add, we all love Ferraris. Just say it. Just say it.
Right.
I agree with Bill totally. The education, your job is to educate us as well, and we love it.
I do want to say, first, I do want to thank our manager. I know Sixto is going to close up shop for us here in a minute. We have several excellent managers within our chapter. We chose these individuals based on our relationships, knowing David is our president. He has led our chapter throughout this difficult year and maintained a successful route in growing our chapter. We're one of only 2 chapters that actually added members in 2020 within the state of Florida. And that's under David and the leadership of the board. Obviously, Bill is our president-elect. Roberta with AMI, everyone who has ever had a chance to even have 5 seconds of Roberta's time knows how wonderful of a person she is. So we chose you all because not only do we respect you all and enjoy speaking with you, we know we have much to learn from you. So I'll let Sixto close things up, but thank you so much for your time. And I want to thank Jeannie Michelle as well, who was unable to complete this morning. We hope all is well, but her advice, her experience, her education, her knowledge, and her friendliness is always valued and appreciated.
Thank you for inviting me. I learned a lot, as always, from David and Bill and from the other managers. And my brief exposure with Sixto and learning about his company, I know one of his colleagues from years gone back. So it's been wonderful for me. So thank you. As always, CAI just complements my life. That's a COMPLEMENT.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I really do. And I echo everything that Scott said. I think the turnout that we had on here today is a testament. I think the willingness for the managers to volunteer to sit on the panel and have this discussion with us today is another testament to this chapter and everything that the chapter provides. So Roberta, Bill, David, and Jeannie, even though she had to hop off a little bit early, thank you all so much for taking the time to do this for us today. I think this was extremely valuable to all the folks that hopped on here today, and I hope everyone makes the most of it and takes this advice to heart and begins to practice everything that we talked about here today. So again, from the Young Professionals Committee, thank you all so much, and I hope everyone enjoyed our discussion today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Well and safe.
Holidays.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas.
See you. Bye-bye.